The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the Association for Software Testing, its management, sponsors, or staff. So we got to talk to Megan a little bit before today.
Right.
So we got a chance to talk a little bit about training.
Yep.
So where are we starting?
So we're going to start at the beginning. Let's begin at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about you, what your role is, what's your job? Just kind of kick us off.
Yeah, sure. I came to testing in a somewhat unorthodox way, I think. Maybe all of us did that, but I
yes.
started off, I thought I was
Here.
going to be a college professor. So I went to school for English literature and can still translate Old English pretty darn well.
There's a handy skill.
Wow.
Honestly, I'm super marketable, you guys.
I don't know why you're even here.
Believe me, the job offers were just rolling.
Rolling in.
You have no idea.
Next up, basket weaving.
Obviously, underwater.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I decided not to go be a college professor because the thought of a dissertation absolutely terrified me. And ended up getting a call from a friend of mine who was a software developer at Highland, and he said, "Hey, look, they're looking for technical writers. You'd be really good at that." So he was my foot in the door. I spent about two and a half years doing technical writing on about 40 of our modules, because we've got a whole big software suite of different products and different modules. And then I realized that, oh my gosh, I didn't want to write a dissertation, so why am I spending 9 hours a day doing writing?
Right.
This is not my thing.
You could do it in Old English just to spice things up a little bit.
Honestly, I think they would have approved of that.
That would have been awesome.
But that's when I started getting into the testing world, and I thought, I'm really ready for a change. Technically, documentation is part of QA at my company, and I said, how about if I transfer onto a testing team? So that led to me going into testing for about a year and a half, and I'm not ashamed to say at which point I kind of experienced a little bit of a quarter-life crisis, and I said, I will go to law school. I will go to
Quarter-life crisis,
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, I will go to med school. I will go volunteer in Ireland on a sheep farm. In reality, I had a kid instead, and totally different kind of adventure. But I ended up coming back to Highland when I was looking to get back into the workforce, and they said, hey, we have this this testing training position open. You remember what it was like to transition into a testing team, right? Yeah.
Just turn that into a training program,
You
please.
remember. Well, there was somebody who had already started it,
Okay.
but she was looking to do continuing education, and we really needed somebody full-time to expand and grow this new employee training. And I said, yeah, that sounds great. I love talking in front of people. I love
Especially when they
testing.
have to listen, right? No.
Oh, yes. I love testing, and I love the idea of teaching new people and making their lives a heck of a lot easier. So that was about 2.5 years ago, and here
Wow.
I am.
Awesome.
Wow.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about your training program. How's it
Sure,
structured,
love
and
to.
how many students you have? And
Now, this is the secret sauce, if I
Right.
remember correctly, right?
I think Kate had the secret sauce.
Okay.
I don't think I have secret sauce.
Fair enough. So
don't sell yourself short.
We could call it a secret sauce.
Okay.
That would
Fair
be
enough.
fine. Okay. So the training program, it's about 7 days long. Might be a little less for experienced testers or transfers from other departments, but that's on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
First 3 days is domain-specific knowledge. You do need to know some stuff about our product to test it. Employees do go through a 4-week domain knowledge program at my company, but that's really the tip of the iceberg. So I take them through things like creating a SQL database, licensing it using SQL queries, installing our product and using it with that database. But then from days 4 through 7, it's the really cool part, because that's when I get to do this introduction to testing. And that's when I get to take them through exercises and discussions that go ahead and start ramping them up on exploratory testing basics. I use one of James Bach's articles, some very basic testing heuristics. I use some broken applications in order to have them put those heuristics into practice.
Now, something you had mentioned to us before is they're broken in a way that you're aware of.
I would like to think I'm aware of all bugs, but I don't think we can really do that, can
But
we?
some of them, and the point of it is so that they find the same ones.
I, to tell the truth, don't care what bugs they find, especially in something like an introductory exercise. The point is more that I know they're not, can I say BSing me? I know they're not making up bugs. I know they're not just saying, oh, well, yeah, I found it. I swear I found this one thing. Okay, well, I know if it's not there. And if I have suspicions, I'm going to ask you to prove it to me. Classes, by the way, can be anywhere from 1 person to 9 people. Sometimes local, sometimes remote, sometimes transfers.
Do you deliver the training remote, or is it all local?
I've done both. I have gone down to a remote office to go ahead and deliver the training, but in general, we've got offices all over the place. It's usually via Skype, via Jabber, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My schedule doesn't allow for a whole ton of travel time, so I'll do it if I absolutely can. I'm not going to turn down a trip to, say, our Florida office. But
it's a tough gig in the wintertime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's real rough. But it's mostly I do it locally.
Okay. So how do you adjust when you said sometimes your classes are 1 student, sometimes you've got 9. How do you adjust the curriculum, or do you when you've got a different number of students? How do you deal with that?
A lot of it, I really don't adjust the curriculum. A class with 1 student has its own challenges because you really do feel like, all right, I'm alone in a room with this person for quite a while. This is awkward.
Do you stand in the front?
I do.
With 1 person?
Sometimes I do.
Really?
I try really not to. The lecture, it used to be a very lecture-based class for about 4 half-day classes, and I've cut it down to over 7 days, probably about 2 to 2.5 hours total of lecture time. I would rather have students doing hands-on work and have me be there as a resource than be talking at them. I think they can learn much better that way. So if it is 1 person, I might get up there and talk just so I can pace around, write on the whiteboard, maybe be animated and remind them that I'm a real human being. I also might just be over-caffeinated and need to do that. I'm not going to lie.
That happens too.
For an 8-9 person class, I just know that's going to get insane because they need instructor feedback on a lot of things in order to continue with the exercises. So it's one thing if I've got bug reports coming in from 1 or 2 students. It's another thing if I've got 8 or 9 students and I'm saying, you have to send me all your bug reports. I'm going to evaluate them as they come in.
Right.
I've learned to read really quickly.
Right.
I'm going to bed at 5 a.m.
Otherwise you were up all night reading bug reports.
It can be a little rough. It can be very, very crazy. And in terms of 8 to 9 people, what you learn more is to encourage collaboration, to keep an ear out over how the students are helping each other. And sometimes you do learn, all right, we're cutting this exercise short because we have to.
In the interests of time.
Yes.
Right. All right. So one of the things, we kind of hit on this a little bit. So when a student is going through your training program, how do you measure at the end, like whether they've learned enough, and do you have to, and how do they get passed on into the business, and how does that go?
Gotcha. Right now, I don't teach toward an exam. Our 4-week employee training program, that domain knowledge program that I refer to, does teach toward an exam. And I mean, it's a case of they do what works best for them, that's cool. But what I found with those students is they spend 4 weeks cramming toward the exam. They take it on a Thursday or Friday. Then they take the weekend, and of course about half of it sticks by Monday.
Right.
These skills that I'm teaching these students are absolutely vital to their jobs. And I know that sounds dramatic.
Okay, let's get into some of those.
Yeah.
What are these things? What are the examples of the sorts of things that these guys absolutely need to know when you walk out?
Absolutely. Some of them are company specific. Like for my company, writing up a bug report is really, really important. And I know for some testing shops, that's not important at all. For us, we're really documentation heavy. So they need to write up a bug report according to good company standards.
So there's a format that they're having to follow.
Oh, format is putting it real lightly. But
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go with format then.
Yeah, format. There's a whole list of stuff that you need to include in a bug report, and I need to teach them how to do it. In our bug reports, the way that they're instructed to test, they've got to recreate the issue with a fixed build. They need to follow development instructions, but then they get to do exploratory testing to go ahead and say, all right, let's see if this is really fixed. So it's still kind of like checking, but we're getting more into full-out exploratory testing there. I like to give them the skills that they need to actually do that exploratory testing. We use some of James Bach's heuristics. We try to narrow it down to some more easily accessible ways to do exploratory testing. What else is there? Because a lot of other stuff is domain specific, things like creating local database, learning basic SQL
So some
queries,
of the technical stuff.
that kind of stuff. There's some technical things. There are ways to document their tests that they also have to know because, again, documentation heavy.
Okay. All right, so they go through, they learn all these things, and then you send them out into the wild, and where do they go, and what happens to you afterwards?
That's a good way to put it. After they're done
Send them
with
off
me-
to college.
Oh, that's terrifying. I have a 5.5-year-old. I don't want to think about college right now.
Yeah, right.
That's really scary. After they're done with me, they're going to go ahead and head up to their desks. We've got the arrangement with leadership that, hey, I'll remind you, once they're done with their 7-day training, you're going to see them the next day, so you had better be ready for them. You laugh, but sometimes we have had instances where this person doesn't have a chair.
So there's
need
a
to fix
folding
that.
chair in the break room, I think.
Yeah, we need to fix that. But they go ahead, they head up to their desks. I go ahead and I spend the next few days putting together my feedback for their leadership. I don't teach to a test because, again, I don't want them to have to cram for it. But I do tell them, look, I'll be in contact with your leadership this whole time. I will tell them you're doing well. I'll tell them about any issues. And I do document and I formalize that at the end. So that way I can go ahead and send off, you know what, here's a record of all the bug reports they created, all their tester comments, the kind of tests that they conducted, general feedback from me that I document.
That's actually quite a cool thing to have as a
is.
manager.
That's the feedback that I've gotten, is that people really appreciate
Right. Because you're
having
kind of
all
giving a
that
little
data.
insight. And the other thing is, if they're struggling someplace, you at least have a little tip off about it, and you can work with that person.
Right.
And you know what they're really good at
Exactly.
when they show up.
Right, and in a lot of cases, the managers are already going to know that, because if a person is struggling, I've already communicated it to them over the course of the week. There's, you know what, I hate dealing in absolutes, but I will confidently say there's never a point where a manager's taken by surprise by a student's progress or lack of progress at the end of that training.
Wow. That's quite the track record.
It's honestly, Skype for Business is a wonderful thing. I'm just in constant IM contact with our management team. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Right. So if you could offer advice to people who are in situations where they've hired new people who maybe don't have any testing experience, but they wanted to bring on junior testers or, you know, new people and expand, what are how do you approach it? Like, how should someone else looking at training someone who's never tested before, where do you start with these guys?
You need to remember what it was like when you knew nothing. Remember what it was like.
That's tough.
It's never happened to either of you, right?
That's got to be really tough for Ben. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, you have to remember what it was like when you were just getting into this, and maybe you went to school for testing, in which case go way, way back, because a lot of the things that you take for granted that, oh, well, this is easy. No, it's actually not. It's a skill that you've learned, and you need to distill down all of the skills that you think are important into, okay, well, how do I actually teach these things? And then get the students actually working on them hands-on. Teach them how to question things. I was actually just having a conversation with somebody else who was training earlier today, and he was saying, well, you know, I get to the point of, I say, well, if you have questions, ask them. And I said, actually, what we should be teaching them is, no, you come up with questions to ask. Because
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what testing is, isn't it?
Right. Is that, I mean, we tell people doubt everything, and then we say, okay, well, any questions? And then you hear crickets.
Crickets, yeah.
Right.
So,
Or doubt everything, but listen to everything I'm going to tell you right now, because I'm going to tell you all about testing.
honestly, I do
And then- right, 'cause you want
establish my
people to-
credibility at the
right.
start, because I say, I don't really want you taking things at face value, but I'm going to tell you that I have been in your shoes. I was a brand new tester. It was at this company. I don't have a testing background, so you have every reason to listen to what I have to say. But if you want to disagree with me, feel free.
But please
we can fight it
challenge
out.
me. We'll figure this
We-
out.
We'll
right.
fight it out. I'm happy with that. Yeah.
exactly.
Excellent.
yeah.
Ooh.
What do we got? We got
Ooh.
the tweet printer is going
That thing
wild.
is
Oh, it's
cool.
repeats. There's a bug in it.
Aw, man.
I wrote some poor code.
How are
It's
we
my
on
fault.
time, Ben? You're in charge
We got
of time.
we got 2 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Well, have you got a question? I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, is there? I mean, I could keep going, I guess, but
Do you have, if you were to meet someone who wanted to start a training program, is there one resource that they absolutely must check out over any others?
New for new testers or experienced?
We'll start with new.
New.
And then we'll go to
Then we'll go to
experience.
experience. Yeah, that's
So,
spoiler alert.
both.
That's fair. For new testers, I can point to 2 books and I can point to 1 article, because 1 article out on Satisfice. Thank you, James Bach, if you were listening to this. He wrote an article called General Test Techniques. I don't even know if I'd call it an article. It is a very broken down basic view of a testing heuristic. It's not an acronym. It doesn't take the assumption that you're already an experienced tester. Here's function testing. Here's what it is. Here are 3 or 4 different ways that you could try to do this. It's fantastic for new testers. I would also point to 2 books. I think it's just called Exploratory Software Testing by Whitaker.
Okay.
Again, it's a heuristic. He likens software testing to a tour of London, and here are all the different tours you could do of London. Here are all the different tours you can do of software. Great for people who are just working on becoming technical, maybe, or who just learn better by reading or by having a story attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually what got me more interested in exploratory testing, because I thought the approach was really cool. And I'd probably say Debugging by Dave Agans. I think he's an electrical engineer, but it's a very common sense approach to, okay, you've got a problem. Here's how you can isolate it, and here's how you can attempt to fix it. And they're common sense rules. It's absolutely short read. It's fantastic.
And how does that list change if it's someone who's more experienced?
It depends on the kind of experience they have. Honestly, I trained somebody who was a video game tester, and my approach almost didn't change at all, because it was such a different flavor of testing.
It was enough different than what they were going into.
If I'm teaching somebody who's an experienced exploratory tester, frankly, I probably want them to teach me what they know. And I'm really more interested in, okay, well, you tell me how you approach things. You tell me what you have read, who you have worked with, before I really make any recommendations, anything like that. At that point, I'd see what they need from me.
Yeah, start with the question, what do you want me to teach you?
Correct,
Yes. How do we begin this dialogue?
Right.
Yeah.
We really hire very few experienced testers per year, maybe 1 or 2. So that's a scenario I haven't really had to deal with often.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this one's kind of related.
Ooh.
This one's kind of related. If you were to meet someone who wasn't in your company that wanted to learn how to test, where would you start?
Honestly, that would almost be easier for me, because I'd be freed of domain knowledge and the necessity to have that, which would be fantastic. Honestly, probably still a lot of the same thing. I realize that's a boring answer, but
No.
a lot of my
That's why it's related.
a lot of the introductory testing things doesn't really depend on the use of our software. It's still, hey, look, I mean, I give you a broken text editor. It's very, very broken. I could give you any kind of application, and we could still apply those exploratory testing techniques to it. We could still...
They're very portable.
We could still do that work, right? That's that's the whole point.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Any last questions?
No, I think we're good.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
so much.
Appreciate you talking about this, and hopefully folks online will get a lot out of it and maybe apply it to their programs.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.